Hello, I'm Milo, traveling with my dog, Willie Nelson.
I'm Jenny with my co-pilot, Dakota.
Two solo van nomads sharing our stories from the road.
We may travel solo, but we don't have to go at it alone.
Girls Just Want to Drive Vans podcast is created to help and encourage other adventurers.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Hi.
Hey. Hi, Jenny. I'm coming to you from Arizona again.
Oh, wow. Hi, Jenny. And I'm Milo, and I am still sitting pretty in Biloxi, Mississippi, due to going to the vet for the dogs. By the way, we did go to the vet today, and he had blood drawn. It's decided that they were going to send his blood work to a lab because he has been off and on sick for months. And so this last time he's been sick for almost 3 weeks now. So been decided that we're speaking about the dog, by the way. So in case they're like, who's on board? Who's getting some blood work? So my dog, Willie Nelson, he's sleeping back here. So he'll let us know when he's had enough of this. But anyway, so my goal is that we'll have some answers as to what's happening with him by the end of this week, if not early next week. So with that said, we have a sponsor.
Yes. Who's our sponsor?
Yes, our sponsor is hats. Or anything.
That's all of them?
Yes.
They all are sponsoring us.
All the hats. Hats
Excellent.
or headgear that hide the fact that you have not brushed or done anything with your hair in weeks because it's not a priority. So when your hair is not a priority, put on a hat or a clever folded scarf.
I like the scarf look.
Yeah,
I don't do much
that's
with
a good
the scarf.
sponsor, right? Like that's a pretty good sponsor. So this week's topic is really about Jenny.
Well, kind of.
I mean, sure, but I think it's probably the most popular question that people want to know about us that don't always ask, which is how do you date when you're in a van? So Jenny is the bomb at dating in a van because you are willing to try.
Right. Yeah. I would say the bomb is an interesting title to have because I don't know if I'm good at it. I'm just willing to do it.
Yes. So you put yourself out there and you typically use a dating app, correct?
Yeah. So in my 2.5 years on the road, I have used dating apps on and off. I've been in several different relationships, most of them not lasting very long, but yeah, I've been willing to put myself out there, and that's evolved over the last 2.5 years for sure. But typically when I talk to people about, their first question is usually, well, like, do you use a dating app? How do you find somebody out there? And I have found that I have to be intentional and deliberate with dating, because as much as I wish I could just walk out my front door and some good looking dude would be there to date me, that's not how it works. So yeah, it's hard to just like organically meet people who are single and your age and have a similar lifestyle and interests and all of that. So I've resorted to using dating apps so I can be a little more intentional and strategic about it.
So the dog's waking up.
Yes.
Okay. So, but when we met back in the summer of this last year, we were in Crested Butte. You used it a few times, but then you stopped, and then you recently got back on, and so what do you put in your profile? Do you tell people that, hey, I'm full-time in my van? Because that's probably not the safest way.
So I've gone back and forth on this a bit. So the app that I used the most in the last 2.5 years was Tinder, and you do make like a profile. And so at first I did not say I lived in a van. I had no pictures of the van, but then I found like right away people would be like, oh, I don't want to date somebody who's not here that lives in a van.
Right.
And I'm looking for somebody who can fit into my lifestyle too. So I ended up switching my strategy. And yeah, writing that I travel full time in my van.
Right. But didn't that, I mean, because you said you were in your van, doesn't that like open yourself up to people who are just wanting to ask you about your van? And are they really into you, or are they just into your van?
Yeah. So Milo and I have a term for this. Last summer when we met, we came up with some ground rules for dating. And this one we call no hitchhikers.
No.
And a hitchhiker is somebody who is just along for the ride and the things that you get to bring into their life, like a van. But more than finding the guys, I think, who are looking for the van, I have trouble with the guys who are hard nose on the van, or like the guys who are like, oh, I mean, you're awesome. The van thing is cool, but if you're not around, this isn't going to work. So I've had more of a hard time where I'd rather be up front that I have a van, that I travel full time, because if you aren't okay with that, then it's not a match. We're not.
But that is hard too. Like would someone, I'm playing kind of devil's advocate, but how would someone want to, when like you're not living there? Like, so when they want to surprise you on a Wednesday and take you to dinner, you're not in town on Wednesday because you're 4 states away because you're doing whatever. So what does it look like for you? What is it? I mean, are you just dating for the fun of just going out and having a good time for the moment? Or ideally, would it be that someone, I mean, what does it look like? What does the ideal relationship look like for you when you live in a van?
Yeah. And that's a great question, and one that I've been slowly like whittling down to the answer in the last 2.5 years. But when I started dating in the van, it was really just looking for a fun time and to get to go cool places and have cool experiences. And I met awesome people that were interesting. But yeah, it was like I started dating when I was in Florida, and that's not a place I ever want to live. So
right.
It's like that wasn't going to be a long-term thing. Or I think my first date I went on was in South Carolina, but same thing. Like I'm not an East Coast kind of gal.
Sure.
But then like as it progressed, I did start to want to find something meaningful and somebody to really spend my time with. Like I love my alone time, but I don't want to necessarily be alone for the rest of my life. So I started trying to think about like, what would this look like? Can I find somebody who's also nomadic? And what would that look like? And that led itself to dating a guy in a bus, dating guys that have had vans, dating guys who travel part-time.
And you met them on dating apps?
And I met them on dating apps.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So sometimes the dating app thing, it can be good because then if you also put out there, like, I live in my van, and another van guy sees that, then they're like, hey, we need to meet up. This is great. This is what I'm looking for too.
But just because you both have the same lifestyle doesn't mean that there's anything other that connects the two of you other than you live in the van. But that doesn't mean, I mean, that's like saying, hey, I go to that coffee shop too. We must be perfect for each other. But that's not at all. In fact, don't you think that some of the people who live in their vehicles are somewhat, I mean, everyone's doing this for different reasons. So like people who are super like, oh, how do I say this without, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm not an extremist. I'm not someone who like, if you don't think that this is wrong, then you're crazy. But I do find, well, in every walk of life, there are, I guess, you know what, that's across the board. There are extremists everywhere. But yeah, I would like to, I mean, are you running into that at all where people are just hardcore something that you're not and you're like,
yeah. And I think the hard thing with like ultimately looking for somebody who has a similar lifestyle or one that can match with mine in some way is that you've just taken a pool of like, I date dudes. So I'm dealing with the dude population.
Sure.
I'm dating guys within several years of how old I am. And then you're whittling it down further. And then I'm really into like backpacking and hiking and mountain biking and snowboarding. So now I'm looking for somebody who has those things in common. And now I'm also looking for like your lifestyle. So like
Right.
I feel like there've been times where I'm like, I'm giving up on dating because it's too hard because the person I'm looking for just doesn't exist.
Mm.
Because the baseline of like, okay, I want somebody who lives in a similar way to me. That means that's like, okay, I want to date a dude. Like that doesn't mean anything else as far as like how you're going to get along or like whether you can communicate well or like all these other very important things for a relationship. So so it's been hard.
It's a needle in a haystack but the haystack you're picking from is small. I mean, you just don't have a lot of options. Do you think there are a lot of guys, that are actually using dating apps who are living in their vehicles to find women? Like, out of all the men you've been dated over the last 2.5 years, how many of them that you actually went on a date with, how many of them actually were on the road living in a vehicle?
Like full-time?
Or even part-time, full-time. How many were actually ready to go out and adventure in a vehicle?
A good chunk. Not all. Yeah.
All
because
from
that was like,
wow.
But also a lot of the dating that I did was in Colorado, was in Utah, in places where that's a lot more common. Like dating in Florida, I wasn't running into guys in vans. Because the population of people doing that in Florida is just a lot smaller.
Yeah. I mean, I've had 2 conversations through men that I've chatted through like Facebook groups, and then someone messages me or whatever. Nothing more than, so how's life going for you out there, wherever they are? And they're usually on the other side of the US from me. And the more we chat, the more I realize how very unalike or just, my fear, I guess, is that I have become kind of set. And especially now, I see like for the next year that my focus will be on the dog because he's still a puppy, right? So I thought if I were to put a dating profile up, it would have to be, tell me about your dog. Does it play well with others? Does it have any toy or food aggression? Can we meet at a dog park? And because I'm never going to leave my dog alone. Someone would have to first understand my connection to my dog and then understand I live in a van and then understand all the other weird things about me. I'm not going to cook for you and I'm not going to, because I'm going to need you to do the cooking.
Yeah.
And like there's all these other things that I have, like, so the van,
so again, you're dealing with like the needle in the haystack of like, people are complicated and we've made ourselves more complicated.
Yes, we have taken what's already complicated and just made it and magnified it. So what sounds like is going to be really cool and great because we live in a van, we travel anywhere, really doesn't set us up well for permanent committed relationships unless someone is super confident to say, go do everything you want to do and I'll see you when you get back, or I'll fly out to go see you. That would be nice. Someone who is, felt, I guess that would take a very secure person, right? To be able to say, yeah, I trust you with your lifestyle and your life, and I don't have to be in your back pocket every day. Would not be so bad. But someone to say, yeah, I'll join you. But like you said, the hitchhiker thing, I think I would share my space temporarily, like a weekend with somebody maybe, but they would have to, like, I don't know. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure how.
I was going to say my limited experience in this with you was a hard, you do not get to cross the threshold of my van.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, but anything's possible. I mean, if I really felt connected to someone, that changes everything, right? So every hard line that we feel we have right now means nothing when we meet the right person. There are no hard lines when you meet the right person. They kind of just dissolve, and because you don't feel like you have to have boundaries with the right person necessarily, because there's a mutual understanding and respect. This is just in theory, because I don't know for sure, but I'd like to believe, that with the right person, I'm not trying to like make me want them in my van. I'm going to want them in my van. I'm not going to make them love my dog as much as, the earth, like the way the gravity is strong on the planet. They're going to do it because they can see he's a magnificent animal. So, as he's been whining this whole time to get out of the van. But so, yeah. So I like the fact that you've put yourself out there. I think it's amazing. And it makes me excited for you. But I do find myself, since you've mentioned that you got back on the dating sites, I found myself thinking what I would put on my profile. And it literally was like, you must have a dog. Can you trust someone without a dog? I don't know. You must have a dog. And your dog must be awesome and playful and share its toys. And the rest is so below that, right? Because then the list is long, right?
Right.
Oh, geez. So
I know.
So you've been on the dating app, and so this last time, and you were and we talked about this too, like going to a buffet and not being not starving, right? So as far as the theory was, get on a dating app, but don't go there because you're starving. Go there full of life and happiness and joy, that you're not looking for that somewhere in the dating app. Go there purely for, I'm just going to take a look around and see. It's like when you go to the mall and you don't really
what's on the menu.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Just checking it out. Just going to maybe try an appetizer. Okay. A little snack, because I'm not that hungry. But then you show up and there might be something that you've never even heard of before, and it's divine, and you want all of it.
Yes.
So so you enter the dating world with this newfound, hey, I'm not starving, I'm just going to have. So this was different this time, right? Like how you set your profile up?
Yeah, I joined a different app just to like switch things up. I was like, I've never there's an app called Hinge. I had never used it before because I don't know that it lends itself as well to like changing your location. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Tinder is like location based. You just turn it on and it uses your GPS and finds people within that radius that you set.
Okay.
But I was stationary and was like, I'm going to just take a look at the menu. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to go to a different restaurant and see what the ambiance is like. Okay. And this one, you don't really set a profile. You kind of answer prompts. So there's like a list of questions you can answer, and then you answer them. And you can include a couple pictures. But I was just about to give up on it, actually, because I wanted to be able to be like, hey, I live in a van. And like I did post a picture of myself with the van enough that like, if you knew enough about it, you could probably put two and two together.
Sure. If you recognize the life.
Right. But it was getting hard where it was like, I was like talking to people, and then right away they were like, so are you just on vacation or what? And it's like, okay, next. Not interested in this appetizer. So I tried a different app, and I, like I said, was about to give up on it because I was like, it's harder to find what I'm looking for, I think. And then it all of a sudden just happened. And I had seen somebody's prompt that kind of sparked my interest, not related to the van at all. And we started chatting, and yeah, the dating apps are gone. um,
Okay, so how long ago did you meet this person?
like a week and a half ago.
Sure. But it was an adventure date, right? Like the first time you met, you did what?
We went snowboarding.
Yeah,
so
which is like right up your, like, that's the way to meet Jenny.
Yes. Yeah.
Go on an adventure.
That was it. I was like, perfect. We had FaceTimed before that.
Oh, that's smart.
So that I could just see, like, if this person's super weird, I can bail now before I drive 4 hours to meet this person.
Right.
Because he was on the other side of the state. And so I drove, and I'm endlessly thankful that I did. Okay. So yeah, we went on an adventure date, and we've been hanging out ever since.
So back to the original. So now that you have something in mind, not to put a lot of pressure on what could be, but what does it look like? I mean, is it just too early to see what it looks like? I mean, let me ask you the big question. Would you give up van life for a man?
So, and we've had this conversation already. Right? Which is like, yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, you guys haven't even known each other that long. But also, I am dating differently this time, where I'm not just here to go out on a date with some random guy to go to a fancy dinner or see something cool. I am really looking for a long-term committed relationship. So like,
sure,
if we're not on the same journey, I don't need to go to that restaurant. You know?
Okay.
I'm being real picky.
Sure. Yeah. Right. I'm with you.
So yeah, so we've had this conversation, and like you were saying, where you have these lines about, I was like, this is my van. I want a dude who has his own vehicle because I don't want to share mine, and I don't want to have to be stuck in one place for a dude. And then you meet somebody where it's like all of those boundaries are kind of blurred again, where you're like, I could look at this differently. So
you're looking at it differently?
Yes. But we've also both really talked about that there are certain things that we both know we need and that make us both happy in who we are and fulfilled, that are hard lines about, like, no, I can't give up traveling. I can't give up the van. That's not going to happen.
Sure.
I could give up this van for our van.
A bigger van.
Right. Like, this is, and people who know how I talk and think about my van, like, this is my baby, my pride and joy. But then when you meet somebody where you're like, okay, but I want the van and you are able to sort of blur those lines and like, okay, well, what would that look like? And if you have a whole life where you have to be in one place, what does that look? What kind of, you're more open to compromise because it doesn't feel like you're giving something up because you want to be with that person.
Plus, you're getting something in return. It's an exchange. You're offering to change this in exchange for the love, compassion, and understanding, and having this other person in your life. It seems like a no-brainer for the right person. So It's obviously still early.
Yes.
And that's fine, but I am your number one cheerleader for this to go in your
My
favor.
mom's going to fight you for that spot, but
shoot. Okay. I'll be in the top 5 because I forget. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Your mom's a big supporter and fan. Okay. So, but from another person, as far as a female in a van, to see you being successful, that makes me happy. And so I support you because I understand this lifestyle and I understand how hard it is sometimes to meet. It's not hard to make friends here, but it's not. I don't want to ever have anyone think that you can't make a lot of friends doing this because I've already made several.
Many.
It's so easy. But just like in every aspect of wherever you're at in your life, it's still hard to find that person to blur your boundaries.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
And it just adds a whole other element to it.
Yeah. So you might have
if there's one thing it's been that I'm not afraid to try to find that.
Well, that is great. So there might be a van built for 2. Wow. Wow. Well,
Who knows?
Golly. Well, this was
Don't want to
good.
jinx it.
Yeah, but either way, it's you bought the ticket to ride the ride, and you're riding the ride, and you're having a good time. You throw the arms up in the air, you know the seatbelt will hold you, and you're fine.
Absolutely.
So many analogies that go on in my head.
I love it. That one's a good one.
Just enjoy the ride. And keep me posted, but I am your number 2 fan.
Call you number 2.
Yes, I am number 2. So I will let your mom be your number 1 fan, because that's always a good feeling. But really, sincerely, thank you for sharing. Thanks for this. You be safe where you're at. I will give you updates next week as we hope to get more about the dog and my travel companion, my number 1. And we'll find out if what your plans are. But yeah, so we'll see each other next week.
Yes, can't wait.
All right, stay safe. Have fun.
You too.
Throw your arms up.
Well. Thanks for listening. Coming soon, you will be able to subscribe to receive our newsletter, which will include links to our campsites, items we carry on our vans, and photos from our journey.
You can also catch Jenny on her podcast, Adventures from the Van.
Or tune in to Milo's podcast at Milo Talks.
Thanks for listening, and just go do and see everything you can in a safe way.